In the deep dive tonight, the EPA is rolling back key limits on PFAS, the so-called forever chemicals that are linked to cancer, immune problems, and other health concerns. Experts told senior investigator Lisa Fletcher that the move could be both dangerous for health and actually illegal.
It could also affect drinking water standards for millions of Americans. At a time, communities across the country are still struggling to remove these chemicals from their water supplies.
I was drinking it since we moved in here in 2012 and, drank it throughout my pregnancy.
When Tobin McNaughton heard about toxic forever chemicals in her tap water back in 2017, she didn't think it was real.
I've never heard of this. It's just bizarre, and I think it's some weird hoax.
It wasn't. Tests found the water her family drank, cooked with, and bathed in contained levels of hazardous PFAS chemicals nearly 500 times higher than what's now considered safe.
Our minds just started reeling, like, what does this mean for our health? What's going to happen to our child?
That child, Jack, was just a baby. His blood showed total PFAS levels above 400,000 parts per trillion. That's as much as 57 times higher than the average adult.
That was the first time that I felt really devastated.
Dozens of studies have linked PFAS chemicals to cancer, developmental issues, and immune system problems, driving the EPA in 2024 to set national limits on 6 PFAS chemicals in drinking water. The agency said the rules would prevent exposure to 100 million people and save thousands of lives. Now, less than 2 years later, the same agency is moving to pull back parts of those protections.
This is about being realistic.
Not because the chemicals are safe, not because the science has changed, but because the rules may not hold up legally, claims EPA leader Lee Zeldin.
Previous administration didn't follow the procedural and substantive step-by-step requirements of the Safe Drinking Water Act when it regulated them. That rule has been extremely vulnerable legally and already subject to ongoing litigation.
What Zeldin didn't say is who's driving the litigation. The EPA itself asked the courts to ditch the drinking water protections. The courts refused, and now the EPA is trying to bypass that defeat.
The concern here is that the administration and the EPA are moving to protect the polluters in the industries that cause this contamination at the expense of public health.
David Andrews is the chief scientist for the Environmental Working Group, which recently estimated that 176 million people have PFAS in their drinking water.
This is a betrayal to Americans in terms of protecting their health. And this will lead to years of additional exposure for people. And many people across the country have been consuming these chemicals in their water for 10 years or longer.
Additionally, Andrews says the move violates federal law.
There is an anti-backsliding provision where the administration is not allowed to roll back regulations that are health protective.
We asked the EPA if the goal is stronger protections, why remove or delay existing ones during their process? The agency did not answer. For Tobin, it's pretty simple.
These are the faces of this contamination. And when you're rescinding the regulations and you're saying that, oh, it's going to impact industry, well, no, it impacts kids. It impacts these children. And
Tobin's son, Jack, is now 10, and he's closely monitored for PFAS-related diseases.
Sounds like one of those 8 million reasons people get very frustrated with Washington and bureaucracy. Lisa, if the EPA goes forward with rolling back or delaying these federal water regulations, what does that mean for families who are watching tonight and they're worried about what's in their tap water?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, these rules were designed to force water systems to test for and remove certain PFAS chemicals linked to cancer and other health problems. If EPA delays or eliminates those requirements, critics argue that communities will wait longer for cleaner water or may never be required to remove certain PFAS compounds at all. Scott?
All right, so Lisa, the EPA has to hold some sort of public comment period right before finalizing that when it comes to the rollbacks. How long will people have to weigh in, and then how can they actually do it? Because some, I'm sure, are going to see this story and say, I need to let them know how I'm concerned.
Absolutely. The EPA opened a 60-day window. The public has until July 20th to submit formal feedback. Anyone can go directly to the federal government's website at regulations.gov to file an official comment. Now, advocacy groups are urging people to use their zip code and share specific local water concerns because the EPA is required to consider the comments and respond to significant issues before they finalize that rule.
Yeah, and that's interesting, as you point out. If they put very specific where it's happening and what they think is happening, sometimes that's what causes reaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Lisa, great report as always. To see all of Lisa's reporting on PFAS and get that link, just go to WJLA.com.
A busy road in Virginia is under new scrutiny over scary, sometimes even deadly crashes that happen multiple times a year. Why advocates say officials should not wait to make life-saving upgrades.